Hey everybody. So it's Super Bowl Sunday. Obviously, I'm all decked out in my Patriots stuff getting ready for the big game tonight. But Sunday also means games of the week. So let's take a look at the upcoming NHL schedule and see what I've picked out as the best games of this week. And I'll say right off the bat, this week kind of sucks until Saturday. Saturday is a huge day. I have 5 games here on Saturday, but the rest of the week kind of sucks. 5 games in total the rest of the week. So let's get into it and see what we're looking at here. So today, February 3rd, Boston versus Washington. That's the NBC game, national TV, 12:30 this afternoon. Boston versus Washington is it's always a really good matchup. Now, the Bruins haven't beaten the Capitals, and I don't know what it is now. It's got to be like 14 or 15 straight games at this point. Washington always beats the Bruins. The Bruins are playing like garbage of late. They're losing games that they should not be losing to bad teams. Washington really was playing bad going into the All-Star break, but they came out of the break and beat Calgary. So it seems like they've got things back together. So this should be a really fun game. I fully expect the Capitals to win like they always do against the Bruins. But it should be a fun game to watch, and it's usually a really physical game when Boston and Washington meet up. Tomorrow, the 4th, nothing. So Tuesday, the 5th, we have Vegas versus Tampa Bay. Cross-conference game, those usually aren't the greatest in my mind, but Vegas is a very good team. Tampa Bay is a very good team. I really am looking forward to seeing what that matchup is like. I think that's going to be a really high-flying, exciting game to watch. And obviously, the Lightning are the best team in the league. Vegas is a top team out west. That very easily could have been the Stanley Cup final matchup last year. Could have been Vegas versus Tampa Bay rather than Vegas versus Washington. But that's not what happened. But anyway, 2 really good teams, and it's going to be a fun game. And then also San Jose versus Winnipeg. That's just 2 of your best teams out west. San Jose, obviously, we know how good they are and the roster that they have, especially their back end. Winnipeg, they have a great defense as well. They're probably, they're one of, if not the best team out west. I know Calgary's there points-wise, but Winnipeg can certainly give Calgary a run for their money as far as best team out west goes. They're one of the top teams in the league as well. So that's just 2 great Western Conference teams matching up, and that could very easily be your Western Conference final this year, San Jose versus Winnipeg. Nothing on Wednesday the 6th as far as game of the week goes. So then we have Thursday the 7th, and we have Dallas versus Nashville on Thursday. That they just played last night. It was a good game. Dallas won 3-1. And, Central Division. Anytime these Central Division teams meet up, it's almost always a great game. Really strong rivalry between all of the Central Division teams, and they're just really fun to watch. They're physical. They're just really good hockey. So Dallas versus Nashville should be a really good game, and then San Jose versus Calgary also Thursday night. Just an outstanding matchup there. Again, you have Calgary, who's in first place in the Pacific Division. Then you have San Jose, who's in second place in the Pacific Division. Top 2 teams in that division going at it. They're close in the standings. It should just be an absolutely fantastic matchup, and potentially a matchup that we see later on in the playoffs. So Calgary versus San Jose is going to be a really good one. And then nothing on Friday the 8th, but Saturday the 9th, we have a number of really, really good games, starting with Nashville versus St. Louis. Again, Central Division matchup, strong rivalry between the teams, but now St. Louis remarkably has pulled themselves back into playoff contention. They're only 3 points out of a playoff spot with games in hand on everybody. So out of the absolute basement of the West, St. Louis has, such an awful start to the season. Now they've pulled themselves back into playoff contention somehow. So this is a big, big game. If St. Louis beats Nashville, that could be a huge, huge game and a huge point in the season for the Blues. So That should be an outstanding game. Then San Jose versus Edmonton. I mean, Edmonton's pretty much, they're not in great shape playoff-wise at this point, but they're not completely out of it. Again, they're only 4 points out. As bad as they've been, they're only 4 points out. St. Louis, or San Jose, one of the best teams in the Pacific, like I just talked about. That's a huge game for Edmonton. That is a massive, massive game for Edmonton and a good division matchup there. Then we have Toronto versus Montreal. That is extremely, extremely relevant now, considering Toronto is second in the Atlantic and Montreal is third in the Atlantic. That puts that rivalry right back up on the map because they are fighting for position in the standings. They're fighting for playoff position, and they could end up meeting in the first round of the playoffs if Montreal holds a top 3 spot. You're going to have Toronto and Montreal be your first round matchup. That would be something else, let me tell you, and that would be a whole lot of fun to watch. And this game should be a whole lot of fun to watch because this matchup really means something. Pittsburgh versus Tampa Bay. Oh boy. If you watch Pittsburgh and Tampa Bay on Wednesday this past week, you know that this is a game I am extremely looking forward to. Not necessarily the most natural rivals on the schedule, but oh my God, was the game that they played on Wednesday an absolute, it felt like a rivalry game. It felt like a Boston-Montreal game or a Pittsburgh in Philly game or a Calgary and Edmonton game. Those guys were all over each other. Tons of huge checks. Stamkos and Malkin fought. There were multiple occasions where there were, some pretty good scrums breaking out that I thought could have developed into more if either team had any real firepower on their benches, but that neither of them are particularly tough teams, or at least, fight-wise, neither team fights all that much. Tampa Bay is a tough team as far as physical and checking and their relentlessness. They're, Cedric Paquette and guys like that. They're tough. But they don't fight a whole lot. Pittsburgh doesn't fight a whole lot either. But that game on Wednesday was something else, and I fully expect it to be just as intense, just as physical, and just as nasty come Saturday, because those are two of your better teams in the Eastern Conference, and they are really going to duke it out. And think that would be one hell of a conference final if Pittsburgh and Tampa Bay meet in the Eastern Conference final this year. Not saying it will happen. There's certainly plenty of other teams that could make it, but that would be one hell of a conference final. And then lastly, Calgary versus Vancouver. And this, obviously you have natural Western Canadian rivals here. Not as good as Calgary versus Edmonton, but Calgary and Vancouver do have a strong natural rivalry and have for a long time. But all of a sudden, you have Vancouver now in a wild card spot. And this is another team, much like St. Louis, that I counted out earlier this year. I thought they were done. It was over. There was no point in even thinking about the playoffs for them. And now all of a sudden Vancouver is sitting in a playoff spot post All-Star break and look like they could very easily make it as a wild card team. So that's a team that I think I disrespected and counted out a little too early as well. And now they have a huge matchup here against the best team in their division. Just divisional game, rivalry game. Important game especially for Vancouver, playoff wise. That should just be a really, really fun matchup. So those are the games of the week for this week. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. Check out offthewallhockey.com. All those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.